Welcome back, Leo Lions. This is Mrs. Morgan with today's lesson over two-way tables, but we're going to be taking it a step further and looking at some percentages in a two-way table. So we previously did some work with two-way tables. So two-way meaning there's two categories that we are comparing. So for example, this two-way table down here in the middle, we have gym membership versus no gym membership, and then we're comparing that with flossing regularly and doesn't floss regularly. So we're trying to figure out, is there a relationship between these type of people? If you have a gym membership, does that affect whether you floss or not? So two things that we're comparing, and then we also have those total categories. So first of all, relative frequency is what we're talking about in these two-way tables today. So we've been doing what we call frequency tables or two-way tables. So frequency means the number of times that something occurs. So frequency is the number of times that something occurs, but relative frequency then is a little different. So this is going to tell us the number of times something occurs, and then we're going to be relating it to the total. And in a two-way table, there's multiple totals. So we could be relating it to the overall total. We could be relating it to just the total in that category. And that's where the importance of reading the instructions comes in handy. So to calculate relative frequency, you're going to find the relative frequency by setting up a ratio. Remember, a ratio is the same thing as a fraction. So our ratio is the frequency, so the number of times that whatever we're looking for happened over the total number of times. Well, then you just created a division problem in the fraction. So you're going to convert that ratio to a percentage. So we can divide, then you will get a decimal, and then we have to change that decimal to a percent. And we'll talk about how to do that. Okay, here's where I was talking about read questions carefully to determine whether the total is referring to the entire table's total, or maybe you're looking at a specific row. Remember that rows go left and right. Or we could be looking at a specific column, and remember columns are up and down. So those little arrows just help you remember the difference between rows and columns. Okay, so let's look at some of these examples. In a survey of 50 people, 23 individuals answered that their favorite ice cream flavor was vanilla. What's the relative frequency of individuals? Here's the important parts that I'm talking about. The individuals who chose vanilla, and we're going to relate that to the total. So let's pull out some important parts here. We know that there were 50 people surveyed. We know 23 individuals prefer vanilla. So we're trying to figure out the relative frequency, the percentage of people who chose vanilla out of the total. So it says express it as a ratio and a percent. So let's start out up here that we highlighted the frequency. So the total number of students or people who liked vanilla was 23 out of a total of 50 people. So 23 over 50, this is what we then call the ratio or the fraction of that relative frequency. So next we want to take that 23 over 50 and we want to express it as a percentage. So honestly, we could change this to get the bottom number to 100. Since we multiplied 50 by 2, we do the same thing to the top and double 23. And then you can see 46 out of 100. This is going to be 46%. So then this would be our percentage. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't always work out with our bottom number being a multiple of 100 or a 100. So if you didn't know how to do that, you could always come to your calculator and do 23 divided by 50. And there we get 0.46. Keep in mind, percents are always out of 100, so you could take that 0.46 and multiply it by 100, and then there it changes it to a percent. So 46% of those people surveyed preferred vanilla ice cream. All right. Now, we have a two-way table at the right, so why don't we pause the video and you figure out the totals in that two-way table. And then you can press play and figure out that the total of people who floss regularly was 32. The people who do not floss regularly are 68. Then if we do look at our column, so up and down, the total who have gym memberships was 45, and the total who do not have gym memberships is 55. Now, this bottom right box is always the overall total of everybody that was surveyed. So we have to add the column here, 32 plus 68. We also have to add this row, 45 plus 55, and in the end, both of those have to equal the same thing. If they don't, then you know you've done something wrong. So 32 plus 68 is 100, and 45 plus 55 is also 100. So that works out. Now let's answer the following questions based off of that two-way table. It does say round to the nearest whole number when necessary. So of the people surveyed, there is that key phrase that I was telling you about where you got to pay attention to, are we doing the overall total or are we doing one of the row or column totals? So of the people surveyed, all of them, what is the relative frequency of people who floss regularly? So people who floss regularly, well, we have 21, and we also have 11. So we're looking at the total of people who floss regularly, which was at the end here, 32. So our ratio would be 32, and then that is out of the total number of people surveyed, 100. So we change that to a percent. Whenever 100 is on the bottom, well, the top number is our percentage, so 32%. Okay, next one, of the people who own a gym membership. So now we are just looking at the people who own the gym membership. So this total row here, so we're looking at the total is going to be 45 in this scenario. Now, we were trying to figure out the relative frequency of people who floss regularly. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to keep this in the same color here. So floss regularly, that column, floss regularly, was 21 out of 45. So we could come off to the side here. Our ratio would be 21 out of 45. And then we need to change that to a percentage. I don't know that one off the top of my head. So 21 divided by 45. Here we do have a repeating decimal. So if we did, we could either change that, move that decimal 2 places to the right, or we could take that answer, multiply it by 100. So if we rounded that to the nearest whole number, it would be 47%. Okay, again, pause the video and see if you could figure out those last two questions on your own. So number 5, again, I'm going to switch colors here to show it in the table. So now we're looking at just the people who do not own a gym membership. So we're looking at the second column, the 11, the 44. Now we're trying to figure out the relative frequency of people who floss regularly. So people who floss regularly was 11. Out of the total number of people, we're just looking at people who don't have gym memberships. So 11 out of 55 would be our ratio. And then we'll change that to a percentage. So we'll do 11 divided by 55. We get 0.2. So move your decimal 2 places to the right always. So 2, and then it'd be 20. Or you could take that answer, multiply by 100. So that is 20% of people who floss but do not have a gym membership. So now we have kind of looked at overall, out of everybody in the survey, 32% of them floss regularly. Over here, we looked at just the people who own a gym membership. So the people who own a gym membership floss regularly 47%. And then here, people who do not have a gym membership floss 20% of them floss. So this last question, does there seem to be a relationship between people who own a gym membership and people who floss regularly? Well, we definitely had a higher percentage of those people who owned the gym membership. So I do see a relationship here. And it does say to explain. So yes, there is a relationship. It seems that people who own a gym membership we're going to say typically, or they seem more likely. Their percentage was higher. Regularly. And there, that is the end of our lesson. Hopefully that, I just got a FaceTime. Hopefully that didn't bump into my video here. So there is two-way tables and then how we find percentages from a two-way table.